This podcast is recorded on stolen and unceded Aboriginal land.
We acknowledge the First Nations and elders of this country and join their calls for justice. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land.
I still don't know if I found the perfect analogy. Like, is it like, oh, I've got a new resolution. I'm going to go to the gym 1 to 6 times a week.
As long as I fall within that range.
Yeah.
That's what I think is achievable.
I will. That's right. I think that's, and that I will have met my my target. I guess more accurately, maybe it would be like 1 to 3 times a week, so it would still be kind of inadequate for what's recommended by experts, but it would also still be a range.
Sometimes in comedy there is a risk of overthinking it a little bit.
I don't know. I still think this has got legs, Tom. Just needs to be workshopped. Just needs to be workshopped a little bit.
Australia will submit a 2035 target to cut emissions by 62 to 70% to the United Nations. It is a substantial lift in ambition above previous projections, but has disappointed climate groups. Aww. So you think it's cheating by having that kind of range in there and just sort of hoping to land somewhere between 62 and 70?
I feel like a lot of people pick this up pretty immediately, right? That it's like if you are setting a target, the bottom end of that target, well, if it's for a cut, like something that's in theory going up, then the bottom end of that target of the range is the target. Like that, the target is 62%. But not only that, like the target is 62%, you've actually also kind of, by setting a range, set like a cap of 70%, you know?
A ceiling, perhaps, not a floor. Yeah. What happened to the floor and the ceiling?
I thought that was a really important part of that legislation, wasn't it?
I mean, you know what's happened here, right?
What?
They got the reports. The Climate Authority came along and said the target has to be 69%. Like that's the only option. That's the thing that's achievable. Silly. That's in line with the science.
That's quite funny.
It's just too embarrassing.
Yours is better than mine, Tom. That's why you're a comedian. It's good.
Thank you very much. I'm a pro. Can we officially ban the phrase, we have to get it right? I heard this so much all over the place and it drives me fucking mental. Any politician, anyone anywhere saying, you know, there's this consideration, and we need to get it right. And if we don't get it right, it'll be bad.
I think getting it right is good. I'm just going to say it, Tom. I actually do think we need to get it right. What's your issue with that?
I'm pro getting it right.
Yeah.
Oh. Mr. Bowen said the government had gone for the highest level of ambition that was achievable. Now, again, this is just in none of this coverage did I see anyone say, "What do you mean?"
Doesn't this basically just means the analysis of this target, right, is that it effectively does nothing more than what is already projected,
right? That we're in line for. Well, the coalition, our good friend Sussan Ley would say, they're not even going to make the 2030 target. So this is crazy. But
yeah, I mean, that's true. The projections may fall by the wayside, I guess, due to some of the things that we discuss in our recent Patreon episode.
Yes.
But it is not exactly, like the idea of what is achievable when you are the federal government that like holds the levers for what determines achievability in this country is so spurious.
Yes, achievable within the limits of, not upsetting capital in any way, working within the market system, not taxing anybody anymore, of course. That's economically unfeasible and politically. Like, it's a fucking crock. Again, I want, for the target, for the target to be in line with the science, which everyone says they have support, we need to find out what the science tells us, what emissions reductions actions we need to make to avoid 1.5 degrees of warming. We need to announce that, like clarify that, and then figure out how we're going to get there. That's how I would have thought it would have worked. But I'm crazy. I like getting it right. So that's where I'm coming from.
Yeah. It sounds like you're trying too hard to get it right. We need to get it right, but not that right. It needs to be just the right amount of right.
Do it today. Start campaigning today against net zero. Make a difference. Build a platform. And get us off this costly fantasy as soon as possible.
We're stuck with the hosts of Chapo Shithouse podcast.
Serious danger to Australia.
Hello everybody, this is Serious Danger, a podcast about green politics in Australia. I'm Emerald Moon, that's Tom Ballard. Hi Tom.
Hello Emerald, nice to see you, as always.
Nice to see you. I'm, as always, recording on Yagara and Turrbal country. Tom is on, where are you?
I'm in Naarm, on the lands of the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people.
Cool. This show is produced by Michael the Griffin, who we love very much. And this week, we are talking about the UN report that found Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza and what the Australian government is saying about it. And then checking in on Liberal leader Sussan Ley and her hot new ideas about welfare dependency.
Oh, cool.
But first, quick bit of housekeeping. If you want to hear more of our thoughts about the state of climate action in the context of the risk assessment report, the targets, obviously, that have just come out, and also a bit of maybe a slight bit of doomerism, but just some questioning around slowing investment in renewable energy and new coal and gas approvals, etc. Please head over to the Patreon. We just put out an episode. We did record this right before the actual targets were released, but like we knew, they don't really change anything that we said in that, to be honest. So please go have a listen to that. If you're not already a subscriber on Patreon, patreon.com/seriousdangerau, it's $3 a month. You get access to an extra episode every couple of weeks, usually where we do a little bit more of a deep dive or something outside of the kind of news of the week. And that is how we pay our producer, the Griff, and keep the show going. We have some new subscribers on Patreon that we want to thank: Hunter, Robert, Ms. Pride, Dipanjali, Danielle, and Ella. Thank you so much.
Thanks, team. Thanks for supporting the show. Much appreciated. For the record, Larissa Waters said that the target was a joke. It's so appallingly low, it will not keep us safe from the climate damage, and describe it. The article I read, I think it was in the New Daily. She said, describing it as shameful and outrageous, which is absolutely correct. But the way they wrote it, it just sounded like she was a crazy lady on the street.
Like it's trying to make her seem just like totally unhinged in her outrage.
Yes. But you should be outraged because they're trashing the planet.
Sure.
Quick bit of business before we dive in. First of all, I want to apologize to you. Okay, so I did Abby Chatfield's podcast. It came out this week. We did a segment of a show called Nightmare Fuel. I was grateful. We've been hoping to try and get Abby Chatfield on the show for a while.
You're apologizing to me because I'm meant to be the only woman that you ever speak with.
Obviously. But also I didn't plug Serious Danger. I just realized because I was plugging my little play, which is coming up at Melbourne Fringe. Tickets on sale now. But I completely forgot to mention that.
Did you even mention it to her directly?
I don't think so.
You didn't even. Oh my God.
She knows about the podcast. I think off air we sort of discussed it. But that's not very helpful, is it?
Well, that's what I meant. I meant directly. Like,
yeah. I think she knows it exists.
Abby,
and she knows we're buddies
on the
with
show.
her.
So you have a Nightmare Fuel. Do we have to go and listen to that, do we? What's
yes.
the general theme?
Well, I did a smorgasbord. I did a range of options of disgusting sex-based stories. If you'd like to hear that, then check out. If she needs our plug. But check out Abby Chatfield's It's a Lot.
Hey, check out rising star Abby Chatfield.
Unless you're a neo-Nazi, in which case leave her alone, please. Yeah.
God, yeah. We continue to receive some lovely messages, particularly, yes, I have enjoyed reading people's thoughts on last week's episode, both announcing my news, in case you missed it, that I am going to be stepping back from weekly episodes and taking a break from that kind of news of the week discussion, but continuing on the Patreon episodes every fortnight. Lots of lovely messages about me stepping back, and also about my kind of just thoughts that I've been having about theory of change and the future of the Greens and a kind of green left political movement more broadly. We got this from patron Alex in the mailbox, firstly sending their love on the passing of my mum. Thank you. Tom will do a good job, blah, blah, blah.
Skip, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, she was sort of saying, as a researcher though, Emerald is 100% spot on about how Canberra-ness is diametrically opposed to being able to communicate effectively with the normies. I can tell you with as much certainty as I can have in my game, most Australians want the Greens' social democratic project desperately. I hear them ask for it in all manner of ways every night, including the 4-day work week, believe it or not. The problem is most have zero idea that that's what the Greens are offering. What I find both frustrating and also a massive source of hope is that we're actually so close.
Yes.
Just got to connect the dots, I suppose. Yeah.
Yes.
Or there was, I was going to ask you about this too. In the Tim Hollow episode, he talked about the experience of door knocking.
Yeah.
and people saying, love your ideas, don't think it can happen.
Yeah.
Don't believe that you can deliver it. Nothing good ever happens out of government. So
Yeah.
anyone can come up with these nice ideas. Does that sort of resonate?
Yeah. There's that two-step barrier of like either they don't know that the policies exist or they know that the policies exist and they like them, but they still don't think that they're possible.
Yeah.
Yes, things that we need to overcome. So yes, thank you for all of the messages, and a reminder that my final weekly show is going to be our 200th episode. Cheering sound effect, applause. We're doing a live show at Comedy Republic in Melbourne on the 1st of November. That's a Saturday, the Saturday that Oasis also happens to be playing. So come along.
Are you going to come?
It's Halloween weekend. No, I don't think so. I don't. Okay. I get very tired after live shows. Not to be that guy, but anyway. I know. Anyway, it's at 4 p.m. I will be awake and energized when it happens. And excited to see you all.
Then you're off to the fucking early bird special or something? Jesus Christ.
I'm
You're
going home to lie down. Tom. That's just how my little brain works. The tickets are $30 and they're on sale and they're selling quite quickly. I expect it is pretty likely that they will sell out. So head to seriousdangerpod.com or the link in our bio on social media at seriousdangerau to get your tickets. And if you weren't already convinced, we have some very exciting news, which is that we will be joined by a special guest on stage, Mr. Wil Anderson.
Never heard of him.
Pretty cool. Yeah, some guy. I don't know.
No idea.
Who has been on the show before, a long time ago, one of our early guests. And we'll be
behind the
joining us.
paywall, I believe. That was a Patreon, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, but I think we then released it. Anyway,
okay. Then we unlocked.
Printing stuff. We might have unlocked it. But if you want even more live in the flesh, fantastic Wil Anderson content, please join us at that show. We would love to see you.
He genuinely listens to the show and will every now and again send me a little text, be like, great app, etc. He's sad but understands where you're coming from. Emerald, stepping away from the weekly release schedule, and yes, a very sweet man, very funny man who knows his shit, who is going to join us live on stage to celebrate 200 episodes. See you there.
Now, a UN Commission of Inquiry, which included Australian Chris Sidoti, has found that Israel's actions since the October 7 Hamas attacks show intent to destroy the Palestinians of Gaza.
There is now no doubt in my mind whatsoever that we are seeing genocide in Gaza.
The Commission found the widespread and systematic targeting of children was part of a strategy to destroy the future existence of the Palestinian group. And by blocking basic necessities, Israel is holding the entire population of the Gaza Strip hostage.
It's taken us 2 years of research, particularly research over the last 15 months to reach that point. We've examined the destruction of health facilities, the killings of health personnel, journalists, humanitarian workers, destruction of education.
Israel has always denied it's committing genocide, describing this latest UN report as distorted and false, though it reaches the same conclusions as major human rights groups and leading genocide scholars, calling for countries like Australia to impose sanctions on the state of Israel, not just on individuals.
Okie dokie. Big week for depressing reports, Emerald. This is a huge week for reports coming out that just make you go, fuck.
Yeah.
We talked about the climate report on the Patreon, but yes, on Tuesday, the United Nations Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem and Israel, released a report declaring that Israel's action in Palestine is a genocide. The commission, which was established by the UN Human Rights Council, concluded that Israeli authorities have intended to kill as many Palestinians as possible and have committed the crime against humanity of extermination. It also found Israel deliberately inflicted life-threatening conditions by blocking food, water, and medicine, actions calculated to bring about the destruction of Palestinians. There are 5 genocidal acts under the 1948 Convention that sort of, any one of them constitutes a genocide. If you meet these criteria, you are committing a genocide. And huge congrats to Israel, who is hitting 4 out of 5 of those.
Wow, great score.
Yes, very well done. Killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. I mean, it's it's very bleak. But it's so important to lay that out because, of course, you've heard
Yeah.
genuinely people rejecting claims that this can't be a genocide because there's still heaps of Palestinians, like really sicko shit with a complete rejection or ignorance or refusal to engage with the actual legal definition of what constitutes a genocide. You can commit a genocide without killing anybody under this definition, right? If you take steps to, prevent the group in question from accessing their reproductive rights or ethnically cleansing an area, moving people out of an area, or forcibly transferring children. All of those meet the condition of genocide. And yes, as we say, on 4 out of 5 of these counts, Israel is totally doing that.
Well, and helpful to kind of lay it out as well, because genocide can sound like such a big word that it becomes a little bit nebulous, and to be reminded of the exact actions that it comprises.
Yes.
Important.
I mean, obviously, the first thing you think of genocide, probably, I would say, you would think of the Second World War and the Holocaust, right? That's obviously, and that's that horrific tragedy in human history is what gave rise to the Genocide Convention. But of course, if you look into it, and I was looking on the Wikipedia list of genocides since the Second World War, there have been that's the extent of my research.
Men be like.
God. But there have been heaps since the Second World War. Like, these do happen, these do take place, and yes, the West, they happen with the backing of Western powers, even though we're democracies that are a force for freedom and peace and human rights. Commission Chair Navi Pillay, a former president of the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, said in a press conference, "Today we witness in real time how the promise of never again is broken and tested in the eyes of the world. The ongoing genocide in Gaza is a moral outrage and a legal emergency." Of course, it is great to see a UN body recognising this, but they're not the first. Technically, we should say the Commission doesn't speak for the UN as a whole. It is a UN body, but doesn't speak with the endorsement of the UN, like General Assembly or what have you. That's a separate conversation.
So this is like Lean making a statement about something that it doesn't represent Labor.
I believe they released a meme of a meerkat going, "Bad week."
Yeah.
This sees them joining the growing opinion of global experts, including Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Israel's largest human rights organization, B'Tselem, and the International Association of Genocide Scholars, who
the people who might know.
They might have an inkling. They might know that Israel is committing a genocide. I did see some freaks try to undermine the credibility of the International Association of Genocide Scholars, but pointing out you just have to pay like $100 a year and you can be part of this association. So it's like, yeah, bro.
But the association itself still. Anyway.
You still need to be a genocide scholar in it, and
surely
just because you pay to join, like no one. Hamas is not training as a genocide scholar, paying to be a member of this organization.
Wow, that's a long game. Yeah.
So there we go. I guess the question is this going to make a difference? What do you think of this particular report from the inquiry? How much will it contribute to the pressure to stop Israel in its genocide?
I mean, we've spoken a fair bit as the genocide has been unfolding over the last couple of years about the inefficacy of, international law, like its unenforceability, and things like treaties and declarations and commissions and all of that maybe not doing the things that we wish they would. But I don't think it'll make no difference. It's still significant, and it still provides, I suppose, another tool then perhaps for other organizations that might have more tangible, hold more tangible levers for change, can then use that declaration, should use that declaration to inform their approach and to support an approach that recognizes that Israel is committing a genocide and responds on that basis.
Have you noticed the shift in the discourse around the big, the drama of using the G word? I mean, I generally sort of see much less pushback. I would say, yes, people are much more comfortable describing that as such, and they can cite all these organizations, and here's just another respected one, at least, to right-thinking people or reasonable people, I think. You can say the UN, does represent expert opinion on this stuff and is worth listening to. But yeah, it seems like defenders of Israel will be much less likely to challenge the use of the word. They'd much rather just avoid it and move on to other stuff, maybe rely on phrases like right to defend themselves and killing terrorists and yada, yada, yada.
Well, initially it was like if you use the word genocide, you're being anti-Semitic
Of course.
because the genocide is the Holocaust, and that in itself is like how dare it was always drawing a pretty long bow. But yeah, it's true. Like, I don't think that holds up as much anymore. Even just stuff like, I feel as though social media censorship, like the algorithm doesn't censor genocide so much anymore.
Right.
I've noticed a little bit of that. It still does obviously censor some of this stuff, but yeah, I think it's definitely shifted.
Do you? I know we've talked about this once or twice, but like even calling it a war at this point is like that's how I kind of colloquially refer to it. The war has been going on, but I think there's a pretty good case to push back against it. We don't talk about the Rwandan war between the Tutsis. Like it's like, no, that's not actually a description of what this is. This is
people have kind of pushed back a few times on describing it as a war, because on the one hand, I think initially it was like people were just calling it the unrest or the conflict, and it's like, well, that doesn't quite do it. And then you talk about a war, which on the one hand could acknowledge, I guess, the autonomy or legitimacy of Palestine, but in reality, it then obscures the enormously unbalanced power dynamic and the fact that you have this like incredibly well-resourced state, recognized state, committing a genocide on another population.
I was trying to look up again in my extensive research, but I was just interested in like, when have genocides been recognized? Do they happen in real time? And I couldn't get to a decent answer on that in the Rwandan conflict. Maybe one of our wonderful listeners has got more insight on that. But I mean, it's interesting. You can see how this is just going to go the same way as Rwanda. Like recently, it was so 2024 was the 30-year anniversary of what is recognized as the Rwanda genocide, and Bill Clinton's there saying this is the biggest failure of my presidency, and everyone can look back now and reflect and talk about how terrible it is, and it's completely uncontroversial to describe what happened to the Tutsis, in which hundreds of thousands of people were slaughtered, clearly as a genocide. Of course, at the time, and no state is going to say, yes, we are doing a genocide, actually. Here we go. But I guess it's just interesting, when after the action do we actually have acknowledgement? I mean, we're seeing it in real time. That's the thing about this extraordinary conflict, is that we are getting uploads every single day, of seeing it. And we are having bodies identified, perhaps too late, of course, and they take their time coming to this conclusion, but they're recognizing this for what it is.
Yeah, and yet it's not stopping.
Still going, that's for sure. I did like this in the commission. They also just straight up called the IDF liars. The commission also found that Israel repeatedly attempted to change the narratives of incidents by concealing information to deflect responsibility and continue military operations. That's just say lie. I'd say just
this is like someone trying to avoid being pulled up for unparliamentary language because you're not allowed to say lie in Parliament. Right. That's what this sounds like.
Yes. Just but you're the fucking. I think this is from the ABC. In an interview with ABC News, Commissioner Chris Sidoti, an Aussie, bloody oath, said incidents described by Israel. Said incidents described by Israel as tragic mishaps were instead deliberate policy. If you listen to Netanyahu, you would come to the conclusion that the Israeli Defense Forces are the most incompetent army in the world.
Yeah. Which is it?
I thought the most moral army in the world, but no. Yeah, just a lot of whoopsies. Yeah, exactly. You really did deliberately doing this. Yeah.
They're constantly talking about how precise and advanced they are.
Yes. So precise and advanced, but yes, oops, we did accidentally bomb that hospital. Yeah, sorry. So what does the report actually mean? I mean, as you say, the report is the most significant finding by an official body to date. It is not legally binding and does not compel any government to impose sanctions. But of course, all states have a moral obligation to not be complicit in genocide and do everything they can to stop it and not be an arsehole. Commissioner Chair Pillay says governments that refrain from acknowledging the genocide should be understood as complicit. All states are under a legal obligation to use all means that are reasonably available to them to stop the genocide in Gaza. Mr. Sidoti urged Australia to investigate citizens returning from serving in the Israeli military for possible war crimes. There are quite a few of those as well, by the way, like dual citizens who, go over there, hang out and work for the IDF and then come back. And you're like, well, we have a responsibility to look into that.
Yeah.
And to review its broader relationship with Israel. That comprises trade, military exports, and financial ties to organizations, including those supporting illegal settlements. So we can briefly have a look at the good responses from the good people, the usual suspects, of course. Amnesty International says Australia should not risk being complicit in Israel's genocide based on this report. Stop the weapons, stop the exports to Israel, introduce further sanctions.
Weapon component exports, they are careful to say.
Oh, well, we should just tell them that it's fine because we're not doing that. That's what my government told me and I believe them. I'm very progressive. Green Senator David Shoebridge says, we know what the Albanese government must do. The UN have made it crystal clear. Stop the two-way arms trade with Israel and sanction the Israeli government. And acknowledge that there is a genocide in Gaza. Green Senator Maureen Faruqi, how many reports and inquiries confirming Israel is committing a genocide against the Palestinian people will it take for Prime Minister Albanese and Minister Wong to face the evil they have allowed to continue unchecked for the past 2 years?
Great question.
Classic, hyperbolic Greens getting all worked up and morally outraged over a little genocide. God. All right, so the bad responses, Israel denied the allegations of genocide and called for the immediate abolition of the commission.
Love this.
That's what I do. Whenever anyone criticizes me, I say this person should be fired, removed, abolished.
Yeah. Completely illegitimate. Yeah. It's like sovereign citizen energy, but way more evil. Or something.
Oh, technically, legally, yes, I am sovereign and you actually can't say mean things about me. I'm sorry.
I declare that I do not listen to you and I am not subject to your jurisdiction.
The Israeli Foreign Ministry slammed the UN Commission as a fake report and claimed its members were serving as Hamas proxies, notorious for their openly anti-Semitic positions. Incredible.
Yeah. If being anti-Semitic means just saying what Israel is doing.
Yes, it's telling the truth. It's very anti-Semitic, famously. What about our government? Foreign Affairs Minister Penny Wong said Australia and the international community agreed the situation in Gaza had gone beyond the world's worst fears. This is a statement in response to the report. Together with partners, we have condemned Israel's denial of aid and the killing of civilians seeking to access water and food. The Netanyahu government is more isolated than ever. Israel will be judged by the International Court of Justice on its compliance with the Genocide Convention.
So basically deferring to, like, saying, okay, this we still can't say whether or not it's a genocide.
Definitely can't. We're going to leave it up to the courts, the process, right? Little addendum here from The Guardian. A time frame has not yet been set for the ICJ's hearing into Israel's compliance with the convention, but observers expect it is unlikely to occur before 2027.
And so, again, just to reiterate, we've got this UN body now. We've also had Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, B'Tselem, and the International Association of Genocide Scholars. But that's not enough for the Australian government.
Apparently not.
Right. They just still are not sure whether it's a genocide.
Who can say? And this is what I mean, going back to this idea.
You can't even get there, like, Jesus Christ.
But it's also going back to, when is it decided? Do we seriously have to wait for a process that we know is going to take years and years? Yes. When the genocide is over, then we'll say, it probably was a genocide.
Yeah.
Disgraceful. Once again,
so
people
weak.
Lauding Penny Wong as some progressive hero. Like, look at these actions. What do you think about this? Come on.
God.
Chris Sidoti said Australia had an immediate obligation under the Genocide Convention to punish and prevent genocide. That obligation technically came into effect in January 2024 under interim orders on Israel by the International Court of Justice. So even if you accept Penny Wong's logic, the ICJ said there is a plausible case for genocide here. That comes with obligations upon us all.
Yeah.
Mr. Sidoti said the Australian government and others were obliged to act now rather than wait for a final ruling from the ICJ. We are providing the most authoritative assessment yet on the situation and the most authoritative until the court rules, he said. And just for some broader context, also this week, the official Palestinian death toll crossed 65,000 people. That is almost certainly an underestimate, but this is also coming down this week. And next week, the UN General Assembly, where the UK, France, Canada, and Australia are set to formally recognise Palestinian statehood. We've talked about that at length, but this is again at the point where at that time when we made the point, that was something of a distraction, something for the government to say without a whole lot of material implications, a way for them to ignore the demands of people on the Sydney Harbour Bridge or the Palestinian pro-Palestinian movement or human rights organizations across the board, which has said, okay, statehood, wonderful, but no, sanctions now, materially change our relationship with Israel now, please.
Given your obligations to prevent and respond to a genocide. Those are the things that you need to be doing.
Yes.
Like recognizing Palestine, unfortunately, does not fulfill those obligations.
Not at all. So look, I don't have much else to say about that other than it's and again, I don't want to sort of celebrate any kind of vindication or whatever, but it's just an incredible reminder that the demonization of anybody in the pro-Palestinian movement, the claims that allegations of genocide were ridiculous or hyperbolic or, yes, anti-Semitic. I mean, they've proven to be so comprehensively wrong. There's been no accountability to any of our political leaders, so the people who participated in that. I mean, even now, the Labor government is, as far as I can tell, is completely shut up about the two-way arms trade, even though we had ABC reporting show that there have been export licenses that prove that exports of weapons equipment, of lethal weapons equipment from Australia to Israel has continued since October the 7th. And Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese had the gall to accuse the Greens of spreading misinformation when in fact they were, and I'll say it, deliberately lying to the Australian people about this issue. And that's just sort of disappeared. It's just fucking gone away.
Have you seen that the Jewish Council is running ads in News Corp? I think running ads in the Australian calling for sanctions on Israel.
Yes.
As a Jewish Australians say, and it's got photos of hundreds of Jewish Australians, which I thought was an interesting, to put it in the paper that is probably responsible for the most heinous, lies about this genocide, and particularly that conflation of criticism of Israel's genocide with anti-Semitism, presenting Israel as the voice for all Jewish people. So I was good on them for running that ad.
Yes, I believe Alex Rivkin from the Executive Council of Australian Jewry has described the Jewish Council as tiny and sad. And of course, they're representing Jewish people in the wrong way. Because they allow the expression of the opinion of the criticism of the state of Israel from Jewish people. That's, of course, you're not allowed to do that. That's wrong.
Tiny and sad. What a
What are you talking about, my penis?
That's a weird angle. Yeah.
We'll move on to tech. But one crazy thing, there was a great video I saw on Instagram talking about Albert Einstein's relationship to the state of Israel. Okay, a German Jew who fled Nazi Germany, who was very critical of the idea of a Jewish majority state, and said it supported a binational state in Israel, and recognized the idea that, yes, if you do this by force, you're just going to lead to bloodshed and terror.
Yeah.
In the 50s, Albert Einstein was offered the presidency of Israel, and he said, no, thank you.
No, thank you.
He declined.
I have heard that. That's right.
Isn't that crazy? Something wrong is with you. With your country, man. If someone offers you the presidency,
for people listening to the podcast, I'm sticking my tongue out. That's the Albert Einstein. That's Albert Einstein when they asked him to be the Israeli prime minister or president or whatever.
Yeah, no.
No.
I'm going to go be an Oppenheimer and E equals MC no, Israel. No thanks.
That's exactly what I was trying. It's good.
In a 1938 letter to the New York Times, Albert Einstein warned that a sovereign Jewish state with its own army would lead to endless struggle with the Arab world. His words were prophetic. That same year, he even predicted in his own words that a Jewish state would foster narrow nationalism, and he feared that this would damage the essential nature of Judaism. In 1952, Einstein was offered presidency of Israel, but declined. He reportedly told his stepdaughter Margot that if he became Israel's president, he'd have to tell Israeli Jews a lot of things they would not like to hear.
All right, back on Australian shores, and Sussan Ley, the Liberal leader, is
and friend of Palestine. Shout out, we're talking about people supporting the Palestinian cause. My number one, the first person I think of, Sussan Ley.
That's our segue. Look, she's doing her best. So I thought we would just check in and see how she's doing. She is, while trying to hold together the coalition that is clearly in fucking shambles, things are not looking good for them. She's also working hard to envision a future in which us little piglets are finally weaned off the government teat.
But I love the government
so we want to talk
teat.
about it.
Come on.
So I love the government teat too.
Yeah.
In fact, I think the government teat is not producing quite enough milk. We need more teats, more milk. Give the government some hormones or something. I don't know. Need some selective government breeding. I mean, I don't know that we need to check in too much on the rest of what's happening in the coalition, but obviously they are very much at war over their approach to climate change. Andrew Hastie saying that he's going to quit the party if they commit again to net zero.
Oh no, I think the front bench. The front bench. I don't think he's quitting the party.
Oh, I thought he was going to quit the party.
That would be amazing.
That's a bit boring.
But yeah, no.
They always. I do hate this. They always say like they've been sacked or they're quitting.
Yeah.
And they don't mean quitting politics. I mean, they don't mean quitting the party, let alone quitting politics. They simply mean just moving in their seat. Similarly, I thought like I was very switched off when the whole Jacinta Nampijinpa Price stuff was happening, and also just didn't want to engage because like can't be bothered. Why? And for a second, like I was like, oh, did she actually leave the party? No, she has also just been kicked off the shadow off the front bench.
Well, it's just like a demotion, and she released a statement saying it has been an honour to serve as the shadow defence industry minister. I'm like, you did nothing.
That's a fake.
It's a fake thing. You're there. You're on the shadow bench doing nothing. All you did in your time was be racist towards Indian migrants, and then got fired.
Been an honour, really been an honour, and refused to commit to Sussan Ley, like supporting Sussan Ley's leadership, which is obviously held on quite a narrow margin internally. She kept saying it's a matter for party room, and Sussan Ley wasn't having it. And she's like, "Well, you don't like me, you can fuck off to the backbench."
Where you get to talk, they always say when people go to the backbench, then they're free to say whatever the hell they want all the time. So
yeah, she's gonna just keep getting worse and worse. Sussan Ley said in doing that, she said, quote, "The Liberal Party I lead will respect, reflect and represent modern Australia."
No, it won't.
And
it won't. Fact check. It actually won't though. Sorry.
Fact check. Yes. Well, her particular idea of modern Australia, perhaps maybe she tried to give us a sense of what that means in this. It's been reported as like her first major economic speech, I suppose, since becoming leader of the Liberals. She addressed the Committee for Economic Development of Australia at this event in Melbourne this week and gave this speech focusing on the, quote, growing expectation that the government will pay for everything.
Jesus Christ. That is my expectation. How about anything? Anything? Could they pay for anything?
Anyway, and yes, trying to be like the LNP is going to fix it. We're going to bring back fiscal responsibility, respect for money, etc. Blah blah blah.
Respect for money. We respect our troops and we respect our money and our flag.
Respect our money. Sorry, that's me bringing in my Queensland politics brain into it because the framing that the LNP government here have been using is respect for taxpayers' money.
Great.
That's like that's what they keep using as their mantra.
Great.
Fiscal responsibility.
Are they giving up any of their sort of benefits and the claims that they can make as part of their expenses, or is that part of their respect for money? Or
not respecting it. No, they are still. Fuck! I wish I had the figures in front of me, but I like still spending tens of thousands of dollars on single flights for press conferences around the state.
Oh, good.
The amount of money that they spend flying around the state to fucking yap in front of a camera is actually criminal. It is like literally it can cost like around $50,000 for a flight.
Christ.
Anyway, okay, so she said at this in this speech, quote, "It has become almost taboo in politics to suggest that not everyone is entitled to every government benefit."
Shut up.
You just can't say it anymore.
Shut up.
You just can't say it. Can't say that. She declared a time of dependency has eroded our national character.
Yeah, where can you where exactly in our politics discourse can you find anyone saying that the government gives away too much money and there's too much benefits. Where I can't see anywhere in Australian media where that.
Yeah, no one's
point of
saying that. Yeah, no. The accepted consensus is that everyone is entitled to every government benefit, and if you disagree with that, off with your head. That's Australian politics right now. It's a damn shame, Tom.
Don't you hate it when the Labor
Actually.
government is just constantly just rocking up at your door saying, we want to give you more benefits. You deserve everything. And don't means test everybody and maintain a level of poverty in this country that is a disgrace and indictment on this bullshit capitalist society. Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ, indeed. She gives this speech. This is obviously kind of in the context of like, during COVID, we had this stimulus spending and support that then shook up how we think about government spending, and we need to get back to what it was like before then, which like is not really, I mean, yes, there was additional support during COVID. We had the job seeker and JobKeeper stuff, and then it pretty much just dropped right back off. But there have been as well, she's criticizing these recent cost of living relief proposals that have often come right before an election. Some of them have come from Labor, some of them have come from the coalition, like the energy rebates, for example, the Labor government did at federal and state levels, of which we have our own critiques because they're effectively just handing money to these private retailers. But arguably they did help. We also had Peter Dunn out there talking about the petrol discount stuff. Like that's also, quote unquote, buying votes and kind of just writing a check. I think she puts it in some way that's like you can't just like write a check to solve everything for everyone.
I mean, you actually, I mean, I don't want to get all MMT, but you kind of actually can.
You kind of can. You kind of can. Well, but the big ones that they're really clearly kind of going after is like NDIS and childcare.
Right.
Because NDIS, they're continually trying to attack, even though just to be clear, NDIS is by no means a universal policy. So if you're trying to be like, well, the problem is that we're giving, everyone's saying that everyone's entitled to everything. No one thinks that everyone's entitled to the NDIS.
Well, that is bullshit, though. I keep calling them and I say, I'd like some free services and money, please. And they say, do you have a disability? I say, well, no, but that's not relevant. That's rude to ask about that, actually.
But everyone's entitled to everything. That's what we all believe here in Australia. The childcare thing, there is I guess this is being reported as that the Albanese government wants to move towards a universal childcare policy. It's by no means there at the moment, but I think this is definitely also targeted towards that, towards that movement by the government.
They're going to campaign against that?
Yeah.
Oh my
God.
God.
That, I feel like that's quite clearly in their sights, which is interesting because, it doesn't seem like a particularly politically smart thing to push back against because of the way that childcare has kind of been, free childcare has been mainstreamed because it's been reframed not as a government service for those who need it, which I think was what it was kind of initially framed as. It's now seen as this opportunity to increase workforce participation and economic growth and productivity. If it's because of the very fact that it's made universal, which means that, mummy and daddy can go out and keep making the economy run.
I disagree slightly on that. I think universal free childcare is a very popular policy for a very good reason, in that families obviously it's so incredibly expensive and ridiculous, and a lot of families are thinking, why is this it's not an optional extra? Yeah, this is just a reality of being a parent in Australia in the 2020s. Very popular, and the appeal of you deserve this. We should provide this universal good service for everybody, and you shouldn't go bankrupt, making sure that your kid is looked after during the day while you're a working parent. I think the workforce participation is the wonk political class, the neoliberal thinking that is used to sort of justify and give cover to what is just a very basic populist broad appeal. Yeah.
Yes, but also I think that I still do think there's been a bit of a shift from the support for childcare subsidies, but on a means-tested basis. I think there still would have been a lot of people, even a few years ago, who were if you earn good money, then you should have to pay for childcare, or at least have to pay a little bit. It shouldn't be free for you.
Yeah.
Whereas, poorer families perhaps it should. But I think that the way that it's seen, like, I mean, the shift from, means tested to universal, I think is because it's like, well, families of every class benefit from
Right.
childcare. There's like a broad acceptance of that, right?
Right.
Yeah. Of course, I don't think that there's much critique of, one of the other pre-election sugar hits that the major parties both try to offer voters, which is tax cuts. I don't think that they're quite on the chopping block.
Well, that's my money. That's all my
as right
money.
people
That's the
expect.
government taking away my money. And the government never did anything to me to help me get that money, apart from, give me a healthcare system and education system and, provide the structures for a functioning society in which for me to participate in the market. But that's all my money, and the government takes it away from me. So I should be able to keep as much of it as humanly possible.
And sure, look, we have spoken before about income taxes probably being the worst kind of tax. Like, if you're going to go, if you're going to kind of go in that direction, it's better to tax wealth than labor. But anyway, these ideas obviously are like, they're not groundbreaking. They're not particularly new. This is like classic liberalism, and that's obviously what Sussan Ley is trying to where she's trying to get to. Instead of her party just looking like a crazy shambles, she's trying to get back to, we are the fiscally responsible guys, and that's who you're going to vote for because you think we're going to manage the economy better.
But just so crazy, sorry, just to make this point, like, yes, this is exactly the neoliberal agenda of Reagan and Thatcher in the 70s and 80s. The difference there was they're responding to the post-war status quo, right? The Keynesian economics, in which the government did way more than it does now. The overwhelming problem with our society in the 21st century is how sclerotic, how privatized our society has become, how the state has just been hacked back everywhere, and you have to pay everything, and everyone is trying to rip you off at every single fucking turn. And we've completely, in many respects, abandoned the idea of universal services that are free at the point of use. What a crazy time to look around at Australia in 2025 and say, you know what, the problem here is things are just too easy for people.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the statistics, if we do a little bit of a fact check on this idea that Australians are growing increasingly dependent on the government, in some senses, yes, like welfare spending per capita in real terms has been increasing, but the biggest driver of that is an aging population. Like, that is far and beyond the most significant proportion of welfare spending in this country is on like aged care, age pension. It's on older people. So, but the coalition and the Conservatives don't like to kind of acknowledge that because they want to say that, there's increased spending on welfare and Australians are becoming more and more dependent on the state. And hope that in your mind you think of welfare cheats, of young unemployed dole bludgers, and people pretending to be disabled to get NDIS benefits and all of this. Like, they want you to think of
and those
that.
toddlers,
they don't want you to
those
think
fucking
of your granny.
toddlers leeching off the state. Why don't they get out there and get a fucking job? Those 2-year-olds.
Yeah. That's it's an evil trick of like, framing. And still, Australia's welfare spending ratio to GDP is well below the OECD average. We have some of the most strictly means-tested and restricted social security payments in the OECD. If you look at even other services beyond like cash payments, things like social housing, our share of, like we've spoken about this before, the proportion of dwellings in Australia, of households in Australia that are social housing, has been declining steadily. It was over 7% in the early 90s. It's now about 4%. And within that, the proportion of social housing that is actually public housing, owned, built, operated by the state, as opposed to community housing, which is run by NGOs, has been steadily decreasing. And so, no, the government is not doing more on housing affordability, and it is not doing anywhere near enough on, welfare spending. As we know, the rates of social security payments are well below the poverty line, even with minor increases. And worth a note as well, comparing us to other OECD countries, looking at social housing, for example, the proportion of homes that are social housing in the UK is about 17%. That was a few years ago, so it could be lower now. In the Netherlands, which has a very similar GDP per capita to Australia, it's almost 30%.
Yeah.
reminder, ours is 4.1%.
Jesus.
So yes, like obviously it's worth just getting those stats and those facts out of the way to call bullshit on the very premise of what Sussan Ley is saying.
And in terms of poverty, I'm looking at the ACOS website. I think 2022 poverty in Australia snapshot: 3.3 million people living below the poverty line. That includes 761,000 kids. Okay, so this is the country in which people are living it up off the government, staying fat. Almost 750,000 kids living in poverty. Thanks, Susan.
Well, the argument, of course, though, is from these people, from these economic conservatives, is that those people are struggling more because wealthy households and individuals are taking more money from the government, from government services, claiming things that they don't need and taking resources away from the people who need it. Like by allowing universalist policies, by allowing higher income people to access services and payments, you're taking food from the mouths of those
fuck off.
starving children.
Brilliant. Yeah, great. Okay.
Well, fuck off
let's tax those people more and then give more money to the actually poor people. Are they calling for that, or they just want to wind back any concessions for what they perceive to be middle class welfare? Interesting.
Yeah. Well, and to argue that it's because wealthier people or more people are able to access support, and that then takes away funding from poor people. The government, like as if that doesn't just obscure the government's decision on whether they provide sufficient funding for the people who do need it, if you acknowledge that those people need it, but also completely ignoring the other economic forces at play. Why are people going hungry?
Yeah.
Are supermarket giants jacking up the fucking prices?
Right.
Like, is there corporate greed, price gouging? Why is homelessness such an issue? Why is home ownership at record lows? Like, is it because we have a system, an economic system that prioritizes profit in the property market? It incentivizes investment over ownership.
Yeah.
Like we have no rent caps, et cetera, et cetera. No, ignore all of that. Like there's just, it's such a cruel lie as well, because it's like, it's really easy. All we would need to do is just like look through the books and find the people who are getting stuff that they shouldn't be entitled to. And we're just going to trim that, and then we'll give it back to you, to the people who really need it. It is, and producer Mike the Griff Griffin pointed this out just off mic before, that like it's the robodebt logic.
Right.
And we know it doesn't fucking work. And yet in 2025, right after all the robodebt stuff, you're still going to come out and kind of pretend that you can just, I don't know, trim the fat and like they're doing it wrong, but we could do it so much better, and we would just give support to the people who need it. And it's a lie.
But clearly, I look at their priorities. I mean, this is a logic that says it's worse for someone to maybe get a bit more support that they don't deserve than it is to fucking try and address poverty, for fuck's sake. Like, poverty, people starving, whatever. The real problem here is someone maybe not clearing a means test in order to receive a small amount of support as part of a universal government service. Now, again, the broader argument, universality is both administratively easier, right? Like robodebt comes out of the fact of like deliberate means testing and freaking out about anybody getting money they don't deserve. And wealthier or more comfortable people receiving benefits, you address through a more progressive tax system. Okay, so you give people the service free of charge at the point of service, and of course, we collect a progressive tax system. And we could tax wealth in lots of different ways, as we've mentioned, but the wealthier person pays those taxes, which then goes back to the system and supports the system. You know, you give free university education. Yes, that means people go on to earn more money, but perhaps as a result of that degree, they will earn more money, they will pay higher taxes, which can then fund a free higher education system for everybody.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting because it's like some of the rhetoric around this, when they do talk about, people who don't need money are getting it and those who do need it aren't getting it, verges into a level of progressive or kind of more like centrist thinking that you could then argue, okay, well then, we need a progressive taxation system that acts like a Robin Hood thing. It taxes the rich to give to the poor. I would argue though that yes, like where, the Greens have been moving and like a truly kind of a universalist politics reframes the government not as just like taking away and then redistributing, but as creating a shared kind of collective project where you all chip in and then you all get access. Like, it's not just about taking and redistributing. So it's like we need to challenge on so many levels of bullshit, but also that entire scarcity framing that, for us to give people, to support people who are in desperate need, not all of us can benefit.
Well, yeah, I'd say we should probably take from each according to their ability and then maybe give to each according to their needs. I don't know. That's just something I've come up with.
That's a really great way of putting it, Tom. I love that.
Thanks.
Really love that. I think so. A lot of this speech, it seems, or there was reference in the ABC reporting, for example, that Sussan Ley might have been riffing off this report published in July or something by the right-wing think tank Centre for Independent Studies.
Mm-hmm.
They published this report, Leviathan on the Rampage, Government Spending Growth, a Threat to Australia's Economic Future, where they used a lot of similar language. They were talking about dependency on the government. They were talking as well, though, specifically about like where is the waste, quote unquote, but also about dependency in terms not just of social security benefits but employment. So their angle is obviously that the public service is shit and bloated, and too many of the people in Australia are working for the government. But I do want to, because when I read the ABC article, it said something like, oh, this report says more than half of the population relies on the government for its income. From what I can see, actually looking at the report, they say that more than 30% of the workforce is employed in the public sector or in activities heavily dependent on government payments. So they're not even, they're actually, like, when they get the half, they're talking about adding public and quasi-public employment.
Brilliant.
Which could be fucking anything. That could be any, like, NGOs, childcare, like all of that. That's not just even the actual public sector plus government welfare payments. Then you get to like maybe half. But there's nothing really to back that. They don't explain how they get to that. They're just like, yeah, probably.
Guys, we all rely on the government for our income. The government makes money. It enforces the law. It provides infrastructure. There is no job that is operating in a vacuum outside of the Australian government. What are you fucking talking about?
Yeah.
And then those percentages, I mean, so what are they saying? Like 30%, and then I believe, Norway's only about 35%. There are some, in Norway, I believe like something like 60% of wealth is publicly owned.
Right.
But Norway, countries you see, particularly in Scandinavia, in which you have a much higher percentage of the public sector, of the employment is part of the public sector. Surprise, surprise, are countries where they have better public services that are free at the point of service, that are much more universalist. Yeah.
Yeah, the government is doing more.
Yes.
Employ more people. But this report is quite directly from my read. Like it talks about, this increased move towards, or an emphasis on, the caring sector, caring industries. Like it does that thing where, again, it doesn't want to say that we should invest less in caring industries, and it acknowledges that we have an aging population that needs more support. So then it needs to find somewhere else that you could cut things. And it comes up with this really vague, just, I don't know, the list of policy suggestions are just you review spending.
Great.
And then you make them more effective. You don't roll out new spending. You apply fiscal rules about the growth rate of spending per capita. And you freeze the public service. So no more.
Oh, great.
You can't, don't hire any more public servants.
We should also care less. I think there's been an explosion in care.
Yeah.
And we, as a society, we just care too much, and we need to care less. We need to cut back on caring.
Yeah. I wanted to read the report because I'm like, anyone is going to listen to Sussan Ley's speech. And if they're doing their job, particularly if they're a journalist, they say, okay, you're saying there's all this waste, or that where the government is spending too much. What are you going to cut?
Yep.
It's all very well to stand up and be like, they're not doing it right, we do it better. What are you going to cut? And I wondered if there would be anything in this report that kind of hints at that. It is interesting. It is it's always hard to kind of say blah-de-blah, but there are lots of reasons that expenditure is going to keep increasing. Interestingly, they talk about childcare. And then they say there are well-known pressures to increase defence spending, beyond current plans.
Mhm.
Ding, ding, ding. And Greens mentioned, they say, to extend Medicare coverage to dental care and more funding for Medicare bulk billing. So dental into Medicare is going to happen, and that's why we need to freeze the public service or something. But I'm like, okay, but hang on, go back a second. There are well-known pressures to increase defense spending, but instead of going in this report, and maybe we shouldn't do that,
Right.
they're like, well, we're going to have to spend 3% of GDP on defense. So I don't know, whose granny are we killing? Like,
put the grannies in the submarines. That's what I
make
say.
the
Fucking
tough
there you go.
decision.
That's your new aged care home, granny. You're getting in the
Yeah.
sub and you're being sent off to China. 2 birds,
Yeah.
1 stone.
Like, again, a fucking reminder that, I mean, I couldn't find the recent stats, but it's like around 15 billion probably that we would spend on job seeker in a year. And the Prime Minister last week or this week or whatever was out in fucking Perth announcing a $12 billion submarine and naval shipbuilding facility under AUKUS.
Of course.
Like, if you're looking for where is the money,
Where's the money?
if you're looking at wasteful spending,
Yeah, where is
I've
that?
got a suggestion for you.
Jesus Christ. Oh God, yes. But the idea that those 2 ideas are in the same category. So they're saying there was pressure to extend Medicare to include dental. Like, so they think that's a real threat, and I obviously think that's bad.
Yes, like I think I would imagine they think that bad, but they're not really saying that in the report. It's more this thing where they're like, so these are the things that mean that we're going to be spending more and more. So they create the basis for their argument that we need to cut or we need to freeze or whatever. I mean, it's the Center for Independent Studies. It's not exactly you can't expect much logic in there. But clearly, this speech was inspired in some part by this, and so I think it's helpful to look at and go, okay, where is she getting some of her language?
Yeah.
Where might the coalition get some of their ideas? And I don't know. Yes, to really not let conservative politicians get away with just telling you that they could do the economy better because they're going to cut quote unquote waste, and people who don't deserve money are getting it, and they're going to fix that. And it sounds so easy and like kind of sounds logical to a lot of people. I think when she says, she said something about we need to stop subsidizing the quote comfortably well off. Like, I think a lot of ordinary people are like, yeah, that's not fair. And we need to go, okay, A, are we subsidizing the comfortably well off? B, how would we stop? Like, what are we going to change? What does that actually look like? And C, is there an alternative? Is there a way that we could afford the things that we all need and even more? Like, could everyone live a good life? Crazy, I know, but that is the job of a Green left political project, which is why I do think the Greens, commitment to universalism over the last few years in particular is important. Like, universalism is that, like universalism versus targeted relief is such an important kind of framing for the role of the government. Again, is it just like kind of take and give, which is always going to set up it's going to set up like competition and opposition and suspicion and just make things more difficult for everyone? Or is it that this is something like we are building a nation, a country, a world where we spread our resources so that we can all get the things that make our lives better. And it's absolutely, and that's why I love any kind of win for a universalist policy, like 50-cent fares in Queensland. Great win for universalism, because it's like everyone can access it. It is proof that, we can actually all benefit from government policies, and we don't need to be cops like on our neighbours being like, you're getting something that you shouldn't, and that's why my kids are hungry. No.
And everyone gets it and loves it. Everyone gets and loves Medicare. Even the Labor Party, for fuck's sake, even if they won't extend the same principles of universalism elsewhere. Think about your local public library. I love libraries. You go to a library, everyone's there the same. Sure, there are some crazies in there, but that's all part of the spirit of the joy of community. But everyone's there. Everyone has access to the same books. No one's getting checked at the door saying, did you pay enough rates to justify this library?
Could you please prove your income? Yeah.
Yes. Doors are open because we value that. That's a public space that we value, and we should get on board. I mean, does it sort of come down to vision too? You've got this quote here: "We believe government support should be a safety net, not a blanket," from Sussan Ley, which to me is just so revealing about this safety net idea of the welfare system, which is just an acknowledgement that, like, well, the economic system that we're completely committed to and invested in will constantly producing poverty, constantly producing people who are downtrodden, who don't have the material needs, met. So, yeah, as a last resort, I suppose we should give them some money to not starve, as opposed to saying, are you interested in actually building a society in which no one would drop below the poverty line? Like, do you actually think, we're the greatest country in the world, surely we can work towards a society in which poverty is eliminated? That's not a ridiculous dream. We've done incredible things as a country. We have incredible resources. We're one of the richest countries in the world. We're having to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on a fucking submarine, for God's sake. Surely, through planning and with that as a goal, we could actually have a universalist society in which poverty doesn't exist. But you don't seem that interested in that. You seem more interested in giving tax cuts to rich people and doing whatever America tells us.
Yes. Hope you're listening, Sussan Ley.
Big fan.
This goes with that and Susan. This goes with that and Susan.
That's our show. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. I want to give a quick plug to Abby Chatfield's podcast and A Night of Humanity for Palestine, which is happening on Thursday, the 16th of October at the Enmore Theatre. If you're in Sydney or Gadigal Country, would love for you to come along. Happening at the Enmore. Incredible lineup. Patrick Aboud and Julia Zamiro hosting. Jan Fran, Antoinette Lattouf, Anthony Lowenstein, Dr. Mohammed Mustafa, the beast from the Middle East, friend of the show, Amy Ramikis, Earthboy, Randa Abdel Fattah.
Is on this list.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I guess, there's a guy called Tom Ballard on there as well. I think it's going to be a strange night in terms of just the tone of it. I've got to go out there and tell jokes while other people are presumably talking about the horrors of Gaza. But it will be a night of solidarity and celebration of our collective solidarity with the Palestinian cause. And all the profits are going to Palestine Australia Relief and Action, Olive Kids, the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund, and Médecins Sans Frontières. We'd love you to come along. If you're in Sydney, come on out. Thursday, October the 16th, A Night of Humanity for Palestine.
Thank you so much. Don't forget to buy tickets for the live show, seriousdangerpod.com. You can find us on social media at seriousdangerau, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And also, if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. That helps us get the word out. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Serious danger to Australia.